Let's talk owner financing for a second. What do you look for? Like, what kind of house are you looking at, a person? Like, what are you looking for when you're trying to find an owner financing vendor lien deed?
Usually the older people have houses that are paid off. That's just the best in my book. I mean, it's hard to find somebody who's in their 20s to 40s with a house completely paid off.
So that's the catch. It has to be totally paid off?
Well, not necessarily. I do a lot of subject to as well. So subject to investing is I don't assume the note, so I'm not having to go through the bank. Now, they do have a due on sale clause. Now, as long as the payments are being made and things are structured properly, you can take over someone's payment, right? That's another thing that I like to do. So like one here recently in Gulf Shores, house got destroyed by Sally. Lady was living in it. She was struggling. She was behind on her payments, facing foreclosure. I went by the house every day, knocking on their door. I wouldn't go every day, but like once a week we were going and checking in on her. And she every time she just kept kicking the can down the road. It's like, oh, I got it figured out. I'm going to send this. I'm going to take care of this, yada, yada. A lot of people will say that to you, that they'll say they have it all taken care of, and they don't. So I've seen it enough times to know that if I just keep checking up on them, eventually they'll understand that I'm probably their only option. I'm the only one here knocking on their door. So here's what we did for her. She had a house that's probably worth $250,000 on a 1 acre lot, but it was very beat up. It needed at least $80,000 to $90,000 in work. She owed, I want to say, $30-something thousand. That's it. And her payments were stupid cheap, like $600-700 a month. We caught the entire balance up, right? So that's the one thing about foreclosures is that you have to reinstate the loan, right? Once it goes into foreclosure, you can't just start making monthly payments again. You got to pay that whole lump sum back up. We paid $15,000. We took over the note, right? So we started making the monthly payments on it. I sat on it for way too long, which cost me too much money because I was trying to decide if I was going to tear it down and build 2 houses or if I was just going to redo that one and sell it. And at that time, the market was kind of going crazy. What I ended up deciding to do is like I just literally sold it to another investor while all I had out of pocket was the $15,000 out of my own pocket and the 6 months of payments that I made. I was able to cut her a $30,000 check after it sold because that was the deal. I told her, like, I'll split the profits with you. I'll catch your balance up. I'll give you a $5,000 check to help you get moved and get your new location, which is extremely helpful to her. And once we sell it, I'll just split it with you, 50-50. So we ended up making, I put in 15, I made like 30,000 and she made 30,000.
Hell of a deal.
Yeah, right. So when you talk about like how do you find creative deals, it's all about asking the right question and figuring out what their real problem is and trying to figure out a way to solve it.
What are you doing with your time now, or what have you been doing on your time within the past year, let's say?
You were talking about failures earlier. Just take a step back. I did have a partnership division. We had a $1.2 million a year business. We flipped over 100 houses a year. When I say flip, some of that was flip, some of it was wholesale. We had about 30 properties together. We built a software business together. I took ownership of that during the partnership division, but like within 6 months, I had lost my dad to COVID, who was perfectly healthy. He was 58 years old, which is another thing about why I feel like each and every day that you have here is more important. Like I don't think about things like most people think about how they teach you in school, like, go to college, get a degree, work your way up the corporate ladder, retire at 65, and then enjoy the rest of your life. Like my dad didn't even make it to 65. He did everything right? So what if I don't make it to 65? I'd much rather take advantage of every opportunity that I have now to go and do the things that I love and that I enjoy and find ways to make money around that. So that's what's led me to where I am now, to where I'm not focused on building a real estate business, even though I'm really good at it and I know it, I'm not passionate about it. So I'm actually taking my own advice that I used to give students for a long time. Is like, find something you're extremely passionate about, become really good at that. And once you become really good at that, you can charge a fee for it. No matter what you're interested in, there's 1,000 other people that are also interested in the same thing. Find your tribe, choose your vibe. If you can build an audience around something that you enjoy doing, you can monetize it thanks to YouTube and social media and things like that, right? So now there's really no excuse for anybody not to turn their passion into a $10,000 a month business. And it's doable. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but you can do it. It's actually a lot easier than most people think, but as long as you're consistent, it all comes back to consistency.
What fires you up? You said marketing a little bit, but it's bigger than that, obviously. What fires you up, and what are you really hoping to change?
So I'm considering myself, and this can be a little bit egotistical, I guess, but I consider myself a digital visionary. I believe that we're sitting on our own personal gold mines because data is more valuable than oil. It actually is. Your big data is a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and your data is being bought, sold, leased, used, traded over and over every single day, and we get nothing for it. So I want to solve that problem and basically create a universal basic income out of thin air. I know I'm going way way up, but I want to create basically a universal basic income through using and asking permission to use your data on our platforms. So I'm trying to build a multiple platform system that will eventually take on the tech oligarchs like Google and Facebook and TikToks and all those things that are basically abusing your data.
Okay, so do you mind breaking it down? Because we all hear data. I'm sure it makes total sense to you. But if I hear a video about data, like, could you break down what data is on like the fundamental aspect?
Each individual is what they would call like a data point. So they might have like your credit score, your financial situation. Like they might know if you're in foreclosure. They might know if, just put it this way. If you go and watch The Great Hack on Netflix, it goes into Cambridge Analytica scandal that basically helped swing multiple elections all over the world. They had at that point in time over 5,500 data points on every single voting age American in the country, right? So 5,500 data points. So that they didn't focus on people that they knew were Republicans, and they didn't focus on people who they knew were Democrats. They focused on targeting. The algorithm was strictly targeted on people who the algorithm considered on the fence. And that's how they convinced the population to move to one side or the other, right? So information is the key to controlling a population. Like information warfare has been around for ages. And that's kind of what data is. That's the reason now, like when you talk about things and you're like, oh, it pops up on my phone, like, oh, they're listening to me. Well, yeah, actually they are listening to you. They're listening to you, they're tracking you, they're following you. They basically know everything about you that maybe you don't even know about yourself. It's creepy nonetheless, but we all know it's happening, or most people know that it's happening, and we don't care because, we get to connect with our friends on social media. Like, okay, so I'll sign this 6,000 page terms of service agreement that no one's going to read that basically sells my soul to Facebook and say, here you go, take all my data. Whereas what I want to build is a transparent system that says, hey, we want to use your data, yes, but we want it directly from you without using all these cookies and tracking you all these different places. We want to hear from you directly. And in return, we're going to give advertisers access to that data, but you'll keep your anonymity. So advertisers won't know who you are directly, but we can put everything into a pool. And in that pool, you'll get, every time your data is accessed, you get compensated for it because they're going to pay us. So the advertisers are going to get clean data on exactly the target demographics they want to hit. And in return, we're going to take a piece of that and give it back as a transparent and fair way to compensate you for access to that data.
Similar how YouTube, TikTok,
yeah, same way they pay creators, right?
They'll pay creators for the views. You're just going to pay them just to be on the platform.
Yeah, I mean, creators will still get paid, but so will users. The term is, what is the product's free, you're the product. So if Facebook and TikTok and all that stuff is free, that means you're the product.
So does that mean you're just going to be taking a portion of the ad revenue and distributing it to the platform?
Yes.
Okay, so you'd pretty much be paying everyone who is a user on your platform a small dividend, pretty much, just for being there.
Correct.
That's interesting.
And that dividend can be used to either reinvest into the company, it can be exchanged with goods and services, it can be sent to your buddies, all that stuff.
Facebook did 50 plus billion last year. So you'd redistribute that pretty much to everyone if it got to that big.
This is the thing. Would you join a platform that pays you?
Heck yeah.
Just for existing and
I'm
using the
working really
platform?
hard I'm paying to get paid right now. I'm paying in ad revenue, editors, everything.
How big is this market? Is it a billion, trillion?
Oh, it's trillions. Yeah, it's trillions. Facebook along's ad revenue was like 86 billion. So Facebook back in the day got popped for a lot of their third-party data that they had implemented, which if you were advertising back then,
it was gold.
It was gold. It was so good.
So good.
But
It's creepy.
People started finding out about it, and Congress had that whole hearing and everything. They had to remove a lot of that stuff. A lot of that hearing was because of the Cambridge Analytica scandal. So when they removed that, things got harder. And then when iOS 14 or 15 came out, that asked that not the track. You want to talk about a hit? Like Facebook took a huge hit. I realized very quickly that you have one side of the aisle and you have the other side of the aisle. Apple is actually one of those companies that I actually respect because they take privacy very seriously. Although they've had some of their own issues in the past, they're at least ahead of the game to the point now to where if you're texting people as part of your marketing platform and you just cold text somebody, their platform, basically iOS 16 now has a little thing at the bottom is like, is this spam? And you can click it and you'll never hear from that number again because they won't ever be able to reach you. So it's automatically predicting somebody trying to reach you in a spammy kind of way. So not only do you have Apple, you have other carriers. So a lot of people are getting on this bandwagon. Cookies are about to be eliminated from Google. That's going to take a huge amount of retargeting traffic away from a lot of advertisers. But they're having to figure out new ways ways. And the only way that I know is by trading something of value, right?
Can you tell everybody what retargeting is?
So retargeting is very simple. So say you're on Amazon, you're looking at a pair of shoes, and then the next thing you know, you're reading a news article and that same pair of shoes is popping up trying to get you to buy it. They're just tracking you from one platform to the other. Those ads are shown to you because you've shown interest in something or you visited a website. So a lot of times if you go to a website and you realize all of a sudden now you start seeing all their ads everywhere you go, that's retargeting. And you can do that from as little as just a page visit or an action on that page. So if they came to my page and just visited, then I can say I just want to target them with this ad for the next 30 days, 60 days, or however long. If I took an action, like I filled out a form or I clicked on something, well, if they click this button, that means they're interested in this product or this service. I'm going to send them a different type of ad based on the actions that they took. That's retargeting.
It can go as far as you even opening an email too.
Yeah, open an email, right. The actions you took inside of that email, did you forward it to somebody? Did you reply to somebody?
That's how I actually blew up on Facebook and in my real estate business at 20, 21 years old, because Facebook ads were so cheap. Zillow ads were like $2, $3K a month to get leads. I was recreating those $50, $60, $70 leads for like $2.50, $3
Yeah.
with Facebook lead form ads, which would pull their first name, last name, phone number, and email address straight from their Facebook and send it over to my CRM, which would send out a text, send out an email. And then once they went to my website, I would follow them around for 6 months. And I just wanted to hit people from every form of marketing: text, email, Facebook posts, Facebook ads, Instagram posts. They were seeing me everywhere. It was evil. I used to dark marketing hacks right here. I would run an ad towards people that Facebook thought were about to get a divorce. I was like, how do they know that? And then people who were currently going through a divorce, it was, let me sell your home. And then after they were divorced, it was, hey, are you looking for a new home ad? And it was like 20 different campaigns going for each different type of demographic for every life scenario that would revolve around buying a house. Just got out of college, learn how to buy your first house for almost no money down. You can't do that nowadays. You used to be able to add or run ads for credit score, your demographic, what neighborhood you lived in, what pages you liked on Facebook, and you could get detailed.
So who regulates all of that? Like you say, you can't run cookies anymore, you can't do all that stuff anymore. Who regulates that?
A lot of that's from legislation. Yeah, a lot of that's from GDPR over in Europe. So like a lot of times things happen on a big scale in another country that have enough users and enough impact that causes a company to entirely change the way they do business. So if America introduces a legislation, which we typically don't because we have lobbyists here, if we introduce a system and introduce something into the platform or into the legislation that makes somebody have to be compliant to, which we've had several that a reason we have the Ask App not to track and all stuff like that have happened that caused the entire industry basically to shift. The first one that I can think of is Can Spam Act, which is all about the email marketing. Email marketing, when emails came out, was the Wild Wild West. Just like AI will be the Wild Wild West, just like texting and cold calling was the Wild Wild West for a minute for marketing. You're going to have these periods of time to where you're going to have a short window to take advantage of a new technology or a new platform to be able to go and like make a ton of money really fast. But what happens is you get a lot of people who abuse those systems. So when the email, you would have people who would download millions of emails and put it on a CD-ROM drive. Back then you could upload it and then literally start sending emails blindly, coldly. Well, now because of the Can Spam Act and because of Google and a bunch of other different mail companies or email companies that have now basically figured out how they can block somebody from cold emailing you, we have the Can Spam Act. And that's when I first learned about permission marketing. And that's why this whole conversation has been started and the whole idea that I've had around how do we give value back to somebody who's obviously providing value to our company. What's Facebook? How much are they worth?
Zero.
Exactly. That's the reason all this AI stuff is such a huge deal for Google and the reason TikTok's such a big threat to Facebook is because of the fact that if their adoption rate is down and their users are down, which Google just got dethroned for the most site visits by TikTok, that's a big deal. It's a huge red flag. Now add that on top of the amount of people who are no longer using search and using ChatGPT, it's a big deal and it's a big hit to their revenue.
there any moment in your life where you're like, you know what, I got to stop caring about these people?
I took a lot of risks very early. I didn't know very much. I grew up in a very small backwoods town. Loved where I grew up. Had some amazing friends, but there was just nothing there for me. I left at 19, moved to Chicago, and wanted to work for a record label. I took a chance because I met a record label executive that said, don't go to school for 4 years in music business. Go work in a city where a label was at for 4 years, promoting shows, meeting bands, networking. You'll learn way more doing that than you ever will going and get a music business degree. So I took his advice whenever baseball didn't pan out, and I was like, I'm going to go to Chicago. I'm going to go work for Victory Records. And I beat down the doors and eventually led to a street team position, and moving fast forward, it got me into marketing and to where I am now. But ultimately, that was a big chance. A lot of people talked about me leaving and how they had opinions and all this other stuff. But where I'm at now, I'll be honest, like my wife has always kind of lived that way. And I was the one in the background, like she would be sharing stuff. I'm like, I don't know if I'd say it that way, or maybe I would change that. But watching her like completely own who she is and seeing how that's transpired into her business and her relationships and our relationship has made me open up and really kind of see the other side of things. Obviously, having a little bit of money helps too, not caring what other people think, because not everyone's going to be for you, right? Not everyone's meant to be for you. There's this old saying, like, if you try to please everyone, you end up losing your ass. That's exactly true. You can't please everyone, so why try? So let's focus on what I enjoy doing, focus on how I can help people do what they love, and focus on doing what I love. And that's all I care about.
So do you mind giving us a little bit of insider on that partnership, what panned out?
So yeah, so partnerships, treat them like a marriage, because it is a marriage. By the time everything's said and done, you may lose half your shit or more. Go into partnership with somebody, you have to start with an end in mind. Even though everything's great and we love each other and we're all friends, and like at any point in time something can happen. People's lives change, and that's normal, right? I don't regret anything that we ever did together. We built a massive audience. We had a lot of fun. We changed a lot of people's lives, and we built a really cool business off of it. And I learned a lot, not just from him, but his dad. So like, I have no regrets about the partnership. But things happen. People's lives change. What people wants and desires, those things change and evolve over time. It just happens naturally. So starting with, if you're going to form a partnership, the one thing I wish I would have done was to start with something with an end in mind. Hey, if something happens, not just you dying, but like if something happens and we have a change in mentality or a change in heart, or we don't agree on something, what does that look like? Sit down and have those hard conversations early and have it on paper, so you're not having to figure out everything over the course of months or over the course of lawsuits. I would say that.
That's probably good advice.
Yeah.
Same thing with real estate. Everything's on paper.
Yeah. No different than a prenup in a marriage. If you're a multimillionaire and you're getting married to somebody who doesn't necessarily have any money, well, obviously they're going to have a prenup, right? And it's going to spell out everything that happens in case of a divorce.